Matthew, if you were to translate 春节 into English, what would you call it?
First of all, I have to say 春节 was only used for a little bit more than 100 years. Before Qing Dynasty, we only used 元旦 to call it. So 元旦 is the very first day, the beginning of the very first day of the year. So that's the original meaning of that, what we are going to celebrate, the Chinese New Year. I think Chinese New Year might be the most appropriate translation.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed that Matthew is not a fortune teller. I wanted you to tell my fortune. Wouldn't life be so much easier if we can have a crystal ball and just tell our fortune?
Is there some magical thing that's going to tell us what's going to happen this year?
Well,
what does it mean with a horse, with a monkey, with some beehives?
Well, wait, let's guess. Hi everyone, welcome to the China Popcast, where we unpack the social and culture trends popping in today's China and maybe even the world.
We are joined by Matthew Hu Xinyu, a cultural heritage preservationist and historian in Beijing. Welcome. And today we're going to be discussing the Year of the Horse, what the horse represents in the Chinese zodiac, the traditional Chinese calendar, and how people apply it to their lives today.
I feel so happy to be with you both today because your names in English both have something that sounds similar to the horse. Your name is wendyl.martin.
Yes, and my Chinese name is Ma Ding, so the first character is Ma.
Is Ma, and Matthew.
My English name, Matthew, people will translate that into Ma Xiu.
Ma Xiu.
Yeah, so that's another Mr. Ma.
Oh wow, galloping into the Year of Horse with two horses.
Two Mr. Ma's.
Two Mr. Ma. Lucky me. So I guess I'll kick us off with the first question. This year ahead is the year of the fire horse. And I'm very curious about, of course I am Chinese, but I'm already a little confused. Fire horse, two elements. What is the system that decides this year is the horse year? And why is it the fire horse on top of it?
That's related to the Chinese system of how we calculate our calendar. We have this system that can be summarized as 天干地支, the heavenly stem, and the earthly branches. So 天干地支, although sounds mysterious, but I think it's all very scientific. For the Asian people, they look at the stars. They thought, everything on earth is a reflection of what's happening in the heavenly kingdom. So they observed that there are 5 major planets that, plays a very important role in our sky. So those are Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter, and so on. So we have these 5 elements, 金木水火土, so metal, wood, fire, water, and earth. So those are the 5 elements. And we also noticed that Jupiter is actually a star that evolves around the sky in a cycle of 12 years. So in this 12th year, Jupiter will be observed on the sky at different positions. So using Jupiter as an indicator, so we divided our system, our sky, into 12 portions. So that's how the earthly branches were defined. And then later there were just people come up with interesting stories or tales. There's a race, the great race, to get to the Jade Emperor first to celebrate his birthday. So rat got there first. So rat, starting from rat. And then we have ox, we have tiger, we have rabbits. So that's the 12 zodiac animals. Then we each give them a quality defined by these 5 elements. For example, rat, we have a metal rat. And then we have a wood rat, we have fire rat, we have water rat, we have earth rat. Same for the all other zodiac animals. So that together we have a cycle of 60 different combinations of heavenly stems and earthly branches. So 60 is a very important way for us to calculate our time in China.
Do you know about all the 12 animals and their order?
Having lived in China for a little bit, I've become more familiar with each of the animals and some of the elements, but I do get confused sometimes with, there's a point where it feels like the elements reset or something within the 60-year cycle. So is there a point in the 60-year cycle where we stop counting the 12 animals and then we sort of go back to the beginning?
We always carry them with us.
So we do 1 to 12 each
Yes,
time?
Yes, it's continuous cycle. So it's always continuous.
So it's always 12 animals and 12, and that will make up the 60 once, being a multiple.
Repeated 5 times.
5 times, okay.
Yes.
I always know that the 12 animals, we don't skip an animal. It always go 1 to 12. However, adding with the elements, then it's sort of like a 5 times of 12, then it makes
Yes.
60.
Yeah.
But in my head, I understood, but it's hard for me to explain to anyone.
Heavenless terms, there are 10 in this order. So that's starting from 甲. So 甲乙丙丁戊己庚辛壬癸. The first started with 甲, and the 12 zodiac animals started with the rat. But we don't say 鼠, but instead we give each animal a Chinese character different from their real name. So like rat, we call it 子, and for ox, we call it 丑. And then for tiger, we call it yin. For rabbit, we call it 卯. 子丑寅卯辰巳午未申酉戌亥. So that's the 12. And then the heavenless terms, because it's 10, to meet 60, it's being repeated 6 times. That's why, have different combinations. So out of this 60, it's never being repeated. So each combination of this heavenly term and the earthly branches, this combination is unique within this 60-year cycle. So that's why how people can tell, this year, although also horse year, it's different from the previous horse year because there's a different numbering system to give it a different quality.
So we understand that this year's, within the system that you're talking
Yeah.
about, is Bing Wu Nian,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So we've got Bing, which is, I think it's a fire element, right?
Yes, yes.
And Wu, which is the horse.
Yeah.
So
Which is also a fire.
which is also a
element.
fire. Yeah, we've heard that as well. And I think it's a yang year, not a yin year, between the
Of course,
two,
yeah.
right?
With
So a lot of fire in this year.
Yeah.
What does that mean for the year ahead? Is there anything particular about this year because
Yeah.
it's a fire year?
Yeah. As you introduced me, I'm a heritage preservationist, so I'm not a fortune teller. So I can just tell you that I think people believe that too much yang is not good. When you have too strong a yang element for this year, meaning that it can be slightly risky with some undertakings, maybe with the climate, maybe with the world geopolitics, maybe with your own business or your own career. So I think that the popular belief is that we got to be watching ourselves and try to maintain a stable process for our, next steps. That doesn't mean that there's a immediate threat, but just suggesting that we got to be a little bit extra careful about what you do this year.
Okay, try not to get burnt this year then. If anything goes wrong, just be very careful.
Oh yeah, I'm so disappointed that Matthew is not a fortune teller. I wanted you to tell my fortune. Wouldn't life be so much easier if we can have a crystal ball and just tell our fortune?
Like, is there some magical thing that is going to tell us what's going to happen this year?
Jokes aside, I think knowing that this is a sort of like a double fire year is good enough and gives us something to think about, I guess.
Yeah.
Chinese New Year does make us think about this zodiac calendar and the cycle. Why is this calendar so important around Chunjie and Spring Festival?
Well, that's the beginning of a year, and although we call it a lunar year, but actually a Chinese calendar has been defined to be both solar and lunar. So it's a combination, take the sun and the moon together as how we calculate our calendar. That started in the late Ming and early Qing dynasty, actually at the help of some Jesuit missionaries who came to the court, who defined this calendar that we are still using today. So in Chinese, we call this calendar, instead of Yin Li, we call it Nong Li.
Okay.
So Nong Li doesn't really say yin and or yang or sun or moon, but rather it says it's agricultural calendar. So that does help the farmers of China to manage their own working schedule. They have a rhythm to follow when they look at the calendar.
Based on what you said, am I understanding this correctly that in China we started off having a lunar calendar and then the missionaries helped us inserting some solar elements into it and then it became a lunar solar calendar. Then we're calling the agriculture calendar. Is the history sort of flow like this?
No, actually I have to rectify myself.
Yeah,
I think in the beginning Chinese calendar already combined with lunar and the solar.
Right.
But it's not accurate. So I think this missionary who came to the court, who actually helped to recalibrate, how accurate, our calendar can be.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. So does it mean that from the beginning, our calendar was an agriculture calendar?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
For example, we use solar terms. In Chinese, we call it 节气. But 节气 doesn't really say it's related to sun or moon. But when we translate it into English, it's solar terms. Actually, December we had the winter solstice, right? So in Beijing, it's not a trendy thing, a very fashionable thing to do. If you go to the summer palace to take a photo of 17 arches,
yes,
because the angle of the sun ray just to go through the all the arches of the bridge. So that formed a very interesting sight. You can only observe that on the winter solstice day. Winter solstice began to be celebrated a long time ago. I'm not sure exactly which dynasty started that tradition, but I'm sure it's a very ancient practice. For example, we had an archaeological finding in Shanxi province, and some archaeologists said that this might be the ruin of ancient observatory. And that ancient observatory was based on the movement of the sun. So they have a number of columns built in a arc shape. So when the sun moved around, the sun's movement on the horizon just tells us when we time it to a certain time of the day, because you just measure the shadow. So that's already solar-based calendar that they use. But lunar-wise, because Chinese calendar in the past, each month, we had 28 days. That's based on the movement of the moon. In fact, it's 27 point some, it's not exactly 28 days. That's also why we have to make it up. After certain years, we have to add the 13th month.
It's like a leap month.
Yes, a
So
leap.
Is that
yes,
why we have a late spring festival this year?
Yes.
Okay.
We had a leap month inserted to recalibrate our calendar to make it accurate.
And so that's why Spring Festival moves every year within the Gregorian calendar.
Exactly.
Matthew, if you were to translate 春节 into English, what would you call it?
First of all, I have to say 春节 was only used for a little bit more than 100 years. Before Qing Dynasty, we only used 元旦 to call it. 元旦, yuan means the beginning, dan means the morning, with sun rising from the horizon. Dan, the Chinese character, looks like a rising sun on the horizon. So 元旦 is the very first day, the beginning of the very first day of the year. So that's the original meaning of that, what we are going to celebrate, the Chinese New Year. I think Chinese New Year might be the most appropriate translation. But in 1913, because 1912, when the Qing Dynasty was overthrown, that's the very beginning that people started to adopt to a new calendar. So nobody had a chance to think about it yet. So Zhu Qiqian was managing the Interior Affairs Ministry. So he said, okay, let's call the January 1st, 元旦. But instead, let's call our Chinese New Year 春节. Because that's really, the time that we all feel that, this past few days getting warmer. So when you ride a bike, you don't feel that cold anymore. With your hands, you still feel it.
Still feel cold.
But a little better than
A little bit better.
Yeah.
We should not be just proud of 春晚, other than 春晚, other than the dumpling, other than the family gatherings. We should also be reminded about, China's very unique cultural roots. I mean, to rebuild a inner self, which is truly Chinese.
Or you can become an honorary Chinese by building an inner Chinese inside of you, starting from wearing the horse jumper.
Can try.
I can see that you are already 60% complete.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I love this accuracy, 60%. This year is 2026 in China. But if we follow our sort of ancient counting, what should this year be in the Chinese calendar or in the ancient calendar? Because Wendyl reminded me that, for example, in other parts of Asia, like
Thailand,
in
for example.
they are in which year? 3000?
2,700 or 3,000, they're much further on.
Yeah.
It's really depending on how we calculate, because the current Gregorian calendar we use, it's defined by Christian tradition, by this religious purpose. But for Thailand, they use the birth of Buddha. We should define, which person or which event you want to define as the most important, starting point of your culture, of your history. So at one point in Republican era, some people were proposing to use the birthday of, can you guess which one? Which Chinese?
Huangdi.
No, it's a
yellow
legendary, too legendary. Confucius.
Oh.
Okay.
If a lot of things are man-made, do you think there's any point debating whether we should translate this year into Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year?
In some places they would call it Chinese New Year, some places are calling it Spring Festival, some places are using the phrase Lunar New Year, and that's become a controversial term.
I don't think that's controversial, although I know that there are differences. But I think Chinese New Year might be the most neutral one, right? It's, as I explained, it's not completely lunar, and the Spring Festival were only adopted a little bit more than 100 years ago.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for reminding me that Chunjie, this is actually a relatively new term compared to our ancient calendar.
Yeah.
I'm quite enlightened on that point. I never thought about it that way before, that it's something that just occurred in the last century. So we're going to turn the attention to you a little bit and your work. So if you could tell us a little bit about you being a historian and cultural heritage preservationist in Beijing, and how you are encountering Spring Festival customs and traditions in your work.
First of all, I'm not really a historian, maybe a preservationist, but maybe more amateur historian. Yeah, it's my main focus, as I was explaining to Lucy. It's mainly about built heritage. So when we talk about built heritage, sometimes involves one very core part, maybe two parts. One is more macro way to look at it, like the layout of the courtyard, the layout of the village, or even the city. The second way to look at it is, how this built heritage were being decorated. So when they were decorated, there are many ways to be, to appreciate or to read a architecture. So both from the macro perspective and the macro perspective, you can see that there are horse imageries can be intertwined into this. Northern China plains very flat, so that gives China the advantage to fully utilize the sun as a solar power, as a power in the past that provides people warmth. So you have to face south, and the south direction is defined by Wu, which is horse. So that's why in Chinese, 子午线 meridian line is defined by the rat and the horse, which is one in the north, one in the south. If you see a clock, you have these 12 animals just arranged around this clock, and then you have rat and the horse. So 子午, that's Chinese meridian line. And so when you face south, you are facing the direction of the horse. And when we look at the patterns in any Chinese architectures, you will find a lot of horse decorations as well. A horse has been pictured as the imagery for energy, for speed, for success, for loyalty. So there are many very good qualities associated with horse. So most likely the host, when they design a new mansion, a new courtyard, they will have their own input. So that will influence the craftsmen, how they implement the architectural or decorative plans. Sometimes you will find an image on the back of the horse normally will be a naughty monkey. And if you look up from the monkey, you sometimes, most of the time you can find a tree that has a beehive. What does it mean with a horse, with a monkey, with some beehives?
Well, wait, let's guess. 马上封侯.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry.
It's the same.
I should have given you a chance.
I was never going to get it.
Actually, normally it should be wasp. It's not the bee, actually. The wasp in Chinese is feng. Feng can be granted, can be the Chinese word for granting you a position in the government, or appointing you as a marquis. So a marquis is a hou, a monkey is a hou. So they are using the image of the monkey to say, this is a career path. This is a good opportunity for you. So the horse is representing 马上. 马上 is immediately. 马上 immediately. So on the horse.
So I mean, over this holiday, people are probably going to be decorating with a lot of things on their doors and their windows. And I think you've brought some interesting examples of calligraphy today that's incorporating the character of Ma in creative ways. Could you talk us through some of those?
Yes. I brought 3 pieces of calligraphy. Fu is it's a very broad concept to wish you good for anything. So you can have good health, good fortune, and harmonious family relationship, a great career path, whatever you wish for. It can be blessed by this Chinese character Fu. So this is a Chinese character Fu, but modified according to the zodiac sign that we have, which is horse. So this is a Fu, but written like 士部旁 on the left and the horse on the right. So 士部旁 is a Chinese radical parts that representing a worshipping. So anything with this can be seen as related to some kind of worshipping ceremony. But this part with, it's Fu, so but written more like a horse. So this is a blessing for the horse year. And this is another with a very similar concept, but you can see that the bottom part has been written into Arabic letters.
2026.
2026, yes. This one is related to the story that we told about the 马上封侯. So if you don't look at this part, this is a Chinese character for Fu. This is a standard, but this part is enlarged. This part is written much shorter. But this little space was given to a Chinese character, seal style, which is a Chinese character for horse. So this is what we use to say 马上有福. So you have your blessing
Coming
right away.
immediately. Coming right away.
Right away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matthew, for bringing this beautiful calligraphy.
Yeah.
And I think done by your son, right?
Yeah, by my son.
Yeah, very
much better than what I can do.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure your doors in your house are going to look really good this Spring Festival.
Yeah.
Very talented. And for our podcast listeners, if you want to have a better look at what these scripts are like, you can go on to our video podcast platforms. There is maybe a group of people that may not be very happy that it will be the year of horse, because if they were born in the year of horse, then in China we have this term called 本命年, and I'm actually need you to help me translate that. I'm not really sure how to say 本命年 in English, like it's just your year, like you hit the zodiac animal of your birth year. Well, legend said that when it's your birth year animal, then it's not going to be a lucky year. Is there any science behind it?
I think it's an interesting tradition that we should keep. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to take it so seriously. In fact, if you go to some temples, especially some Taoist temples, you can still find maybe one of the halls, one of the worshipping place would be called 太岁殿. So 太岁, sui is a year. So a sui is an annual cycle. It's 1 year. So coming to the Chinese New Year, I got to be careful, because one of the reasons that we play with fireworks was to get rid of all the bad luck of the last year and scare off the demons, using the sound. So Sui in those temples sometimes being represented by 60 deities in different looks, but following the same zodiac signs. So it's repeated 5 times. It's very interesting to see this kind of thing. People are still going there to pray for good luck for the coming year. If that's their year, then I would strongly recommend people to be mindful if you were born in the year of horse.
There were some people that were choosing to have their children or their babies in particular years. So is there any logic to this? Are some zodiacs considered luckier than others?
Of course. For example, dragon would be considered a very good year. And so that's why a lot of dragon babies, if you work in primary schools or kindergartens, you will probably notice that. In the past year, I think some of the newspaper was encouraging people to have more babies, right? So we should say that every year is a good year, so people can have more baby.
One of the trends that came up recently is people are using AI software to determine their Bartza chart. So I did it. I went to a chatbot and I put in some information about myself, my birthday, my time, and it made some little notes about relationships with my siblings and about my health. It was accurate about some of my organs. I was quite surprised. So I sat back and I looked at this computer and this Bartza chart telling me things based on my birth. What are your thoughts on this phenomenon and AI's ability to do this?
I never consider fully 100% belief in one theory. I think that may lead to a worse scenario. So if you have a more critical thinking and you just put a lot of, maybe a few different sources of information together, and that may help you to make better judgment. It's like an investment, right? You can't really just follow one person's advice to invest on whatever he said. That's totally risky.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
I actually want to bring us back to the calendars a little bit, because happy Lichun, everyone. Today is actually Lichun, which is a solar term, I think,
Yes.
in our 24 solar term system.
Yeah.
And Lichun, basically to me, it means start of spring.
Yeah.
But the Spring Festival this year is after Lichun. So does it mean we are now already in the year of horse? I thought after speaking to you, I will have less questions about the calendar, but now I have more questions because it seems like we have 3 systems. How do we keep track with all of this? And now it's already Lichun.
Nobody can really keep track it by doing a simple math in their mind. I think that's why in the past people have to buy a calendar. Releasing the calendar was only managed by the state, and in the past only by the emperor. So that's how actually the emperor assumed his legitimacy to rule the world. That's also why Qin Tianjian, so the Asian Imperial Observatory, it's a close advisor to the emperor. It's a slightly informal term that we use for the emperor, which is called the Tianzi, right? We call every emperor, even the kings in the Zhou dynasty, as the son of heaven, Tianzi, meaning that he is representing the heaven to rule the world. So this calendar, it's a summary of what they have observed, all the constellations, the revolving, the movement of all these mysterious constellations. Asian people consider, this is whatever your fate is, has already been written there. So you just read, decode, and translate into this calendar, and then you can apply in your daily life. So that's also why in some calendars we'll always say, today the taboo is not to go out, stay home.
Wow, it's so fascinating how this calendar is actually a very important part of the state. And do you want to quickly explain to us why is Lichun before the Chinese New Year this year?
It's largely because of the leap year.
Right.
So that has pushed the Chinese Spring Festival or Chinese New Year a little bit behind. So Lichun happened before that. So many people will say, starting from today, it's already the year of horse.
The holiday is observed in different places now, and we see Spring Festival and Chinese New Year celebrations happening in different places within the Chinese diaspora and as culture relates to other people. How relevant is the Chinese system and calendar for people outside of China and from different cultures?
Well, I think that if you have friends from Southeast Asia, you can ask them. I think many Chinese, overseas Chinese, especially in Southeast Asia, they are very keen about the traditional Chinese calendar. And they are even more traditional than us from the mainland. Many of them, they still keep their family book, the family tree. So they still have their family shrine. And so this kind of tradition had some interruptions, but not as big as we had. So they were still following that tradition. I have been to Thailand, been to Malaysia, been to Singapore. I have observed from my friends, from some of the heritage that I've been to. I can see that this tradition is still very much alive.
I have a question here, which is a similar question that we asked during our traditional Chinese medicine episode, which is for the Southern Hemisphere, people from, for example, Australia or South Africa. When the seasons are
It's really opposite.
Does it still mean the same thing?
There's nothing we can do about it, right? We set our calendars based on the Northern Hemisphere climate. I think that's applicable only to Northern Hemisphere, seasonal-wise. But of course, people who celebrate Chinese New Year in the southern part of our planet, that can only say one thing. That means how strong the Chinese culture is. That's the cultural gene of the Chinese people, that we, no matter where we are, no matter what season it is, but we still keeping in ourselves internally, there's a clock ticking to that point that you want to have some dumplings. I think it doesn't matter.
Thanks, Matthew, so much for your insights today and for really expanding and helping us understand a bit more about the calendar and the value of the horse zodiac. That was the China Popcast, where we unpack culture and social trends popping in today's China and maybe even the world.
And before we close today's episode, we have some time for the guests to talk about your future projects. You were telling me about two major projects.
I'm representing Beijing Cultural Heritage Protection Center. It's a Beijing registered charity, and we focus on built heritage. So with the very limited resources, we would like to focus on those much needed heritage, which is the vernacular heritage houses. Especially in those remote villages, like in southern Anhui province, there are many villages in the mountains, in the hilly terrain areas. Takod in the village is very nicely nestled there. And they still keep a very good built environment. They still keep a very good tradition. One of our goals this year is to guide some of our resources to that area, maybe to find a place where we can build or renovate or refurbish one old house. It doesn't have to be listed heritage. And that way we can demonstrate our ethos. But at the same time, like what we discussed, we would like to follow the traditional customs to revive some of the practice, to support the local craftsmen, to continue their pattern of life. That way, it's not just a beautiful shell, but it also has a very truthful soul in there. So that makes the community lively and sustainable.
Thank you so much for listening or watching this part of the China Popcast, and we hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. Remember to like, share, and comment. And as we're galloping into the year of the fire horse, we wish you all the best, and bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.